Last game we have to talk about, we had 7-3 Arkansas taking on 9-1 Alabama. This is going to be played on CBS. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. Alabama is a 20.5 point favorite going into this game. Now, Arkansas defeated LSU in overtime last week, 16-13. Alabama played New Mexico State and crushed them 59-3. Now, I've been really impressed with Arkansas this year, and I'm more impressed of what they've done over the last couple of weeks when they defeated Mississippi State and they defeated LSU, because you guys got to remember, there was a point where Arkansas was highly ranked. They defeated Texas when Texas at the time was ranked 15th in America. They defeated Texas A&M. And after that run, they kind of had a gruesome stretch in October when you had to play Texas A&M. Then after that, you had to play Georgia, Ole Miss. So they had a pretty tough slate last month. And at one point, a lot of people were starting to get off the Arkansas hype train. And pretty much some people thought that Arkansas season was going to kind of falter and go downhill. But Sam Pittman has done a really good job riding the ship. And when I look at Alabama, I definitely feel like this is a game that Arkansas definitely could potentially push Alabama in, because Alabama hasn't been the Alabama teams of the past. This is an Alabama team that isn't really all that good up front when it comes to the offensive line. And defensively, I don't really know how much I trust Alabama's secondary. Now, Alabama is a 20.5 point favorite for a reason. I'm not going to deny that. But I definitely feel like there are definitely some positions on that Alabama team that Arkansas potentially could exploit. Now, I couldn't really, break it down using the numbers and the analytics, because when it comes to Alabama, the numbers and analytics aren't really reflective on how I feel about this defense. I kind of feel like this defense, when they played against LSU, I kind of expected them to be way better against the run. Davis Price pretty much ran the show. So I kind of feel like their run defense has been vulnerable at times. I also feel like their offensive line hasn't really been all that great. And the reason why I can't really use the numbers to break down this game is because it's kind of skewed between, the New Mexico States of the world when they play them and the Texas A&Ms of the world and whatnot. So basically, from what I've seen Alabama, I see a team that isn't really that dominant up front on the offensive line. So if you're Arkansas, you want to be able to get pressure on Bryce Young. And I definitely feel like that 3-3-5 defense would be a pretty good defense to play when you're going against Alabama, because the 3-3-5 primarily is meant to, help defend against the pass and teams that like to throw the football a lot. But I also really feel like there are some vulnerabilities when you run the 3-3-5, because you only have 3 down linemen, and you're going to need your 3 linebackers to be able to get outside and cover the edges. And that's something that Arkansas has kind of struggled with. They don't really have that speed at linebacker to be able to get out fast and be able to cover those edges. So when I look at Alabama, I feel like Alabama probably should have a pretty good day on the ground. And they probably will put up a lot of points offensively, but I also feel like Arkansas is more than capable of being able to match any points that Alabama is able to put on the board, because I'm not really that high on the Alabama defense as most people like. Yeah, I know you got Anderson, you got a pretty good defensive line, but Arkansas also has a pretty good offensive line as well, even though it got train wrecked against Georgia, because Georgia is on a different level right now when you got monsters like Jordan Davis. Like, I'm not really going to, I'm not really going to judge Arkansas based on that game, but Arkansas's offensive line has played pretty good so far. And on top of that, they got like 4 or 5 running backs that they all like to rotate in. And on top of that, KJ Jefferson has been money all year for this Arkansas Razerbacks team. As a matter of fact, he probably has been the 3rd best quarterback in the SEC this year, behind Bryce Young and Matt Corral. So when I look at KJ Jefferson, I expect him to have a big impact on the ground. And when you think about it, the last time that Alabama faced a true dual threat quarterback a couple of weeks ago was when they played Tennessee. And Hendon Hooker had a pretty good day for Tennessee going against his Alabama defense until Alabama started to turn things up a notch in the fourth quarter. So I definitely feel like if KJ Jefferson is able to have success running the football for Arkansas, it's going to open things up, and it should open up the passing game. You got Traylon Burks, one of the best wide receivers in America. And I look at that Alabama secondary, and I'm not really sold on it, man. Like, this Alabama secondary has kind of been a big question mark for Alabama for the whole entire year. Haven't really been sold on their corner. So I definitely feel like if the ground game can get going and they can use that to open up the passing game, I expect Arkansas to put up a lot of points on this Alabama defense. And I think there's a potential upset brewing in this game. So LSU had some success running the football on Alabama. My question is, can Arkansas have success on the early downs? Because I don't really feel like Arkansas is a team that's built to convert on third and long situations. And also, on the flip side, can Arkansas get off the field on third down? Because this Alabama offense is pretty efficient. They take what the defense gives them. It's like, you know, pass here, pass there. It's not a lot of big plays when they're just trying to sell out and try to get big plays every single play. Like, this is a pretty effective and methodical offensive attack that Alabama has with Bryce Young. So for Arkansas, you're probably going to be put in a lot of third and short situations, probably going to be put in a lot of third and four, third and medium, third and five situations. And I wonder if Arkansas is going to be able to get off the field in those situations, because I feel like that can be really big. And on top of that, I also feel like for Arkansas, you're going to have to find a way to make sure that you don't allow Alabama to just maul you through the ground. Because I feel like Alabama this year, when they've been at their worst, has been when they haven't really been able to lean on that run game. So when Alabama hasn't been able to lean on that run game and they get into games when they're in one-dimensional situations, I kind of feel like that's kind of something that Arkansas, if they can get Alabama into those spots and they can shut down that run game, I think if you can make them one-dimensional, you put yourself in a pretty good position there. Now, I'm not saying that Alabama's not capable of being able to maul you through the air, because they can. And when you look at Arkansas, there has been a couple of games this year where their defense has really had a lot of answers, but primarily Arkansas's defense has pretty much struggled against the run this year. So if you're a Razerbacks fan, that's pretty much my biggest question about Arkansas heading into this game. Just how effective is the run defense going to be, and can you get off the field in those third and medium situations? Because if you're in a third and four or third and five spot, there's still the whole entire playbook that Alabama can use on you. They can still choose to, you know, throw the football, or they can run the football to pick up the first down. And there has been a lot of games where we've seen Arkansas kind of look like they've been outmatched defensively when it came to stopping the run. So I really feel like if they're going to have a shot at winning this game, it's going to have to be making Alabama beat them through the air and not allowing them to control time possession, just run the ball all game on them. So I'm going to take Alabama to win, even though I'm going to be rooting for Arkansas to win this game. I do feel like Arkansas shouldn't be taken to the woodshed, even though they got blown out by Georgia. Georgia is right now a better team than Alabama. Alabama hasn't been as dominant as Georgia has. So I think Alabama probably wins this game 38-28 is going to be my final score prediction in this game. I'm going to take Arkansas to cover. I don't think they're going to lose by 20.5. I do think that Arkansas probably could keep things tight at some point in this game until Alabama ends up breaking it open. So you guys let me know who you guys have winning this game down in the comment section down below. And I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Make sure that you guys go ahead and leave a 5-star review on the JT Sports Podcast if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts. Also, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and college football videos. And I will see you guys with another episode of the JT Sports Podcast.